Mel Tucker, Houston Astros right fielder, had a very peculiar pre-game ritual. Every time he stepped up to bat, he'd reach for a handful of dirt, rubbing it between his hands before each pitch. This wasn't just a random action. Dirt was a big part of his game. But in the middle of the 2023 season, Kyle gave up this habit for good. Surprisingly, it transformed him from being in a tough batting slump to one of the top hitters in baseball. So why would he abandon something that seemed to work for him? And what conspiracy theory did we find out as to how it led to such a massive improvement?
The Houston Astros selected him with the 5th overall pick in the 2015 MLB draft, and he signed for the Big League Ball Club not long after. Thrust into the Astros minor league system, he began a quick rise through the levels, which would culminate with his promotion to the majors in just 3 short years. Along the way, the various Astros affiliate teams provided him with as many pairs of batting gloves as he needed.
To understand, let's go back to Kyle's early days in baseball. Superstitions are common in baseball. Some players always wear the same socks or only eat chicken before a game. There's even a story of a player who, oddly enough, would pee on his own hands. But not all superstitions work, and that's what Kyle eventually discovered. Kyle was known among his teammates for one distinctive habit. He never wore batting gloves. By 2021, he was one of only 11 players in the MLB who didn't wear them. However, this wasn't always his style. Growing up playing Little League Baseball in Tampa, Florida, Kyle wore batting gloves like most players. Even when he played for Henry Plant High School, he wore gloves. But his gloves would often get worn out, developing holes that made them unusable. Instead of buying new ones, Kyle decided to try batting without gloves. Whether it was laziness or just curiosity, he gave it a shot. As it turned out, Kyle didn't need gloves to be successful. He batted an impressive .494 with 10 home runs during his senior year, earning him Florida's Gatorade Player of the Year in 2015. Though he was set to play college baseball for the Florida Gators, his plans quickly changed when the Houston Astros picked him 5th overall in the 2015 MLB draft. Signing with the Astros, he entered their minor league system and rapidly moved up through the ranks. In just 3 years, he made it to the majors. During his time in the minors, the Astros provided him with as many batting gloves as he needed. But Kyle stuck to his barehanded approach. His reason for ditching gloves, not wanting to buy new ones, no longer applied. But he figured if it wasn't broken, why fix it?
Empty Anderson strike zone shows grass. Wow, he owes McCann.
So now Batista's thrown 20 pitches in this inning. Felix Bautista with a bases loaded and 1 out and a 2-2 count to Tucker. Got him. No! Foul tip that is not handled at the plate. McCann couldn't come up with it.
Kyle's unique choice to bat without gloves set him apart, and he didn't need them to perform well. His barehanded approach showcased his power, speed, and skill, quickly making him a favorite among Astros fans. However, Kyle soon noticed one downside to batting without gloves. Gloves help players grip the bat, as their rough surface provides better friction. Without gloves, Kyle's bare hands would slip on the bat, so he needed something to make up for that loss of grip. That's where the dirt came in. Before each at-bat, Kyle would scoop up a handful of dirt, rubbing it between his fingers. This created a bit of extra friction, giving him a better grip on the bat. And dirt was readily available on the field, so it was a simple solution. Over time, this turned into a whole routine for Kyle. It wasn't just about gripping the bat, it became a ritual that helped him focus and get in the right mindset. In baseball, staying calm and focused is crucial, especially for hitters. Like a basketball player who bounces the ball several times before a free throw, Kyle's routine helped him stay composed between pitches. He'd step out of the batter's box, pick up some dirt, rub it between his fingers, and take a deep breath. This dirt ritual became a sort of mental reset, helping him to clear his mind and stay focused. Kyle's dirt habit seemed unbreakable, especially with how well he was playing. In 2018, while in the 8AA league with the Fresno Grizzlies, he had a .308 batting average over 80 games. With those numbers, it was hard to see why he'd ever stop using his dirt ritual. However, when Kyle was called up to the majors later that year, he faced some tough challenges. Major league pitchers were more skilled and had more variety in their pitches than he'd encountered encountered in the minors. At just 21 years old, Kyle struggled to adjust, and the Astros sent him back to an AAA. But he didn't give up. After another strong season in the minors in 2019, Kyle returned to the big leagues, determined to make his mark. In the shortened 2020 season, Kyle started showing his potential, proving he belonged in the majors. He hit for both average and power, leading the American League in triples. By his first full season in 2021, he earned all MLB second team honors and had a standout postseason performance, leading the Astros in RBIs. Kyle, who was generally quiet in interviews, had one noticeable trait that fans and teammates could always recognize: his commitment to batting barehanded. It wasn't just a style choice, it had become a statement.
Tucker grounds one, fair ball, that'll score a run. Tucker sends this one to left field, well hit. Varsho into that corner, that's gone! Kyle Tucker, he gets into one towards right field, sending Springer back, looking up, gone!
In 2022, Kyle's career reached new heights. He made the All-MLB second team again, earned a spot as an All-Star, and even won a Gold Glove for his defense in right field. Ironically, the only glove he agreed to wear was for fielding. Kyle didn't always wear batting gloves, but he wasn't strictly against them either. During his first few seasons, he'd sometimes slip them on when playing in cold weather. Then, in 2022, when he found himself in a bit of a slump, only hitting 4 out of 46 at-bats in mid-April, he decided to try something new. He reached into his locker, dug out a pair of gloves, and slipped them on. Though the gloves felt strange and unfamiliar on his bare hands, he decided to go with it. Surprisingly, it worked. He hit 3 singles in one game against Toronto, regaining his swing and finding his rhythm. But a few games later, Kyle went back to his usual no-glove style. When the playoffs came, he was gloveless again, taking the Houston Astros all the way to in Game 1, Kyle hit 2 memorable home runs, leading the Astros toward a championship. Fans held their breath as he swung, the crowd roaring every time the ball sailed through the air. It seemed like his glove-free approach was part of his identity, a testament to his fearless style on the field and his comfort in doing things differently. But whether gloves actually make a difference in performance is tough to say. Most players wear gloves. In fact, it's pretty rare to see a player without them. If batting without gloves was better, then why wouldn't more players do it? For some, like Kyle, going barehanded means they can feel the bat better. Fingers without gloves are more sensitive after all. On the other hand, those who wear gloves have the advantage of comfort. Gloves can prevent stinging and blisters that come from hard hits, making it less painful over time. So while there are pros and cons to each, there is no solid rule on which is better. In the end, it comes down to personal choice, one that's as individual as each player's swing, quirks, and rhythm on the field. In 2023, the baseball world changed. Major League Baseball introduced several new rules to make games faster and more exciting, including a pitch clock. Now, pitchers had only 15 seconds to throw the ball once they got it. If they didn't, they'd be penalized with an automatic ball. Batters, meanwhile, had to be ready by the time the clock hit 8 seconds. This became a problem for Kyle because he had a time-consuming habit of rubbing dirt on his hands before every pitch. He'd grab a handful of dirt, rub it around, and take a deep breath, almost as if he was drawing energy from the earth itself. It was part superstition, part focus ritual, but with the pitch clock, he now had only 7 seconds to do this. Suddenly, his routine felt rushed, almost like a mini workout every time he got up to bat, squeezing an entire ritual into mere seconds.
Tucker slicing one, hit pretty well to left. Nolan Jones will watch this one. It's gonna go.
Tucker's .350 against the Southpaws this year.
And Tucker hits it high in the air and deep to right field. Bouchard is back at the wall, looking up.
70 pitches so far for McKenzie.
Tucker drives one deep to right field. up the facade of the second deck.
Kyle, who usually kept his complaints to himself, began voicing his frustrations. He felt the pitch clock gave pitchers an unfair advantage, and it wasn't long before he decided to make a big change. By mid-June, after a rough stretch of games and a long road trip where he struggled to hit, he finally gave in and started wearing gloves all the time. The dirt ritual was out and gloves were in. This switch seemed to work wonders. Over the next 30 games, his batting average shot up almost 100 points. He hit as many home runs wearing gloves as he had without them in half as many games, and his OPS, on base plus slugging, went from 773 to an impressive 886. When the season ended, Kyle led the American League in RBIs, hitting a personal best of 112. He had fans and analysts alike wondering, was it the gloves or had Kyle tapped into something else altogether? Whatever the reason, Kyle had found a new rhythm that was helping him dominate on the field. Does this mean batting gloves are truly better?
The payoff. High drive right center. Kyle Tucker owning game one.
Maybe, but Kyle's success likely had more to do with his old dirt routine being cut short by the pitch clock. His long habit of rubbing dirt on his hands became difficult to keep up with, so the gloves helped him adjust to the new rules. Still, there could be another explanation behind his improvement. Many baseball players have superstitions, small routines, or habits they think bring them good luck or help them perform better. Psychologists say these rituals give players a sense of control. When athletes believe a certain ritual is essential to their performance, their mindset ties success to that ritual rather than to their skills or timing. Missing their routine might make them feel off and impact how they play. That's why players often stick to quirky habits even when there's no real proof they work. For Kyle, his dirt routine wasn't just about feel, it was a mental anchor. Without it, he had to find a new focus, and the gloves became part of that new process, possibly giving him just enough of a mental edge to take his game up a notch. Kyle's improvement might have come from a mental shift. By letting go of his dirt routine, he could have started focusing more on his own skills than on something outside his control. If he truly believed the dirt ritual was key to his game, he likely wouldn't have given it up, no matter how rushed he felt. His willingness to change could mean he no longer saw it as essential. Perhaps Kyle's decision to wear gloves was more than a response to the pitch clock. Maybe it was a sign that he'd grown as a player, realizing his success came from his abilities and adaptability rather than any ritual. He transformed from the player who needed a grounding ritual to the one who believed in his own hands, whether they were wrapped in leather or bare to the elements. In the end, Kyle is a great player, with or without gloves, and regardless of how much dirt is on his hands. His journey shows that sometimes flexibility and the ability to adapt are just as important as skill. Whether he chooses to wear gloves or not, Kyle's story is a reminder of how small changes, like letting go of a ritual, can make a big difference in sports and in life. It's a story of resilience, adaptability, and the courage to face change head on, even if that change is as simple as putting on a pair of gloves. And as the Astros continue to chase their championships, Kyle's glove or gloveless journey reminds everyone watching that sometimes it's not the ritual or the routine. It's the heart, grit, and sheer determination of the player that really counts.